Cheers.
Cheers.
Welcome to Tabby Hour.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Tiffany Dorau,
Yes.
Greenville famous, luxury real estate,
Yes.
interior designer,
Yeah.
social picnics, bartender,
Yeah.
a social media influencer,
Sure.
everything.
Whatever you want to say. Yeah.
So where did you grow up?
I-
and where did it start?
So I grew up in Cashiers, North Carolina.
Okay.
Most people would call it Cashiers. I've seen it spelled. That's how you can tell if you're a local or not.
That's it.
It's a very small town. It's in Western North Carolina. Primarily known for golf, tennis, resort clubs up there. It's a second home residence for
Mountain town.
people that vacation from Florida and want cooler weather in the summer. It's beautiful. It's very tiny. So I grew up there, went to, lower school and through middle school. And I played tennis very competitively all my life from like 8 years old. And so when high school was approaching, there's only 2 schools in that area, neither of them having really big sports. There was like basketball and that was it. And I'm very short, so that was not going to be for me. So I looked at a couple different schools in Hilton Head and Florida, and we looked at some in Texas for tennis. And so my dad was my coach pretty much my whole life. I had some here and there, but he was primarily the guy.
Is that how you got started playing tennis with
Yeah,
him?
yeah. So he is a big sports guy,
Yeah.
and he played baseball and football growing up. So I was a very girly girl, but tomboy in the sense of I was very athletic.
Did you have siblings?
I have a younger brother.
So you're the oldest and
Yeah.
only daughter.
Yes, and
yeah,
by
you're-
4 years, so we had a little bit of a gap,
You're
especially
playing all
when
the sports.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so, he coached softball for a few years when I was younger. So I'd always come to softball practice. And he's a big Reds fan. Not doing well this year, but
Yeah.
big Reds fan. So we used to play like softball in the yard all the time. And he's like, Tiffany, your swing is Ken Griffey Jr. Like, it's perfect. It's the same. And I'm like, I know. But he's like,
pro.
Tiffany, there is absolutely no future in women's softball. Like, it's past college. You're not doing anything. So swing pattern is kind of similar to tennis. So he was like, well, you have the swing. It needs a little adjustments. So we started playing tennis right when I was turning about 9 years old, is when I really started playing seriously.
Did he play tennis before this? Or
No.
did he start playing tennis with you?
He started playing tennis with me.
That's
So
cool.
being kind of naturally athletic, he just fed me balls for the most part. It wasn't like we were hitting back and forth. But he read tons of books and it was very sunk right into it.
Yeah.
I just watched the King Richard movie with Will Smith and was like, oh my gosh, this is my dad right here. Like, not as crazy, not as wild, but
That's cool,
a
though.
little bit. So yeah, he read his book and stuff. And so he did as much as he could with me, but we are too similar to where I always think I'm right and he always thinks he's right. And looking back on it, he was probably right on a lot of these things. But 9, 10-year-old, 11-year-old me was like, I had my own opinion. So we fought a lot with tennis, and it was Coach Dad on the courts, and then Coach Dad came home and we'd argue. So we're like, we would like to have a relationship that's not this. So that's when he was kind of like, we need to look into some schools that have the coaching and have more of a competitive field of players. I had kind of played through all the tournaments locally and was playing a lot of the same people. So
And this is in high school.
this is in middle school.
Middle school.
Yeah.
Okay.
I started playing tournaments, like I said, 9 or 10 years old. So this was the 10s, the 12s, and the 14s, division-wise, for juniors. So looking into high school, there was just not a lot of options there in Highlands Cashiers. So we went to voluntary down in Florida, and it's a IMG academies. It has every sport under the sun, and it was just this huge facility. And my dad's like, I don't feel comfortable leaving you down here to board with like 1,200 plus kids. So, and they're from all over the world, and you just didn't think that I was going to get like that individual attention that some of the other academies could provide that are on a smaller scale. So we went to Hilton Head, and there's 3 different academies on Hilton Head, or there was at the time. So I went each day and played at one of those, and we ended up at Smith Stearns, which is in Sea Pines.
Okay.
So I played all through high school there. I went to Heritage Academy on the island, and it was a school catered to the academies. So the golf academy, IJGA, owned Heritage. And so they sent all their golf players to Heritage, and we went to school from 7:30 in the morning till 12:20. And at 12:20, the buses came and the vans came and picked up, the golfers went golfing, tennis went to the tennis courts, swimmers, whatever. You could really do about anything, but you had to have a certain amount of hours of extracurricular activity to be able to attend that school. You couldn't just go there. And I mean, we had one kid that was his passion, is what they called it, was math. So he would stay for hours afterwards and work with one of the teachers and do math. And that was like only one kid did that. But
he's probably a billionaire today.
Probably so. He was very smart. But it was primarily golf and tennis. So I did that all through high school. And then the end of September is my birthday. So I was always the very late, last cutoff for my age and my grade. So I was really young. And I had some scholarship issues looking into colleges. So I really wanted to go to SCAD, which is Savannah College of Art and Design. I wanted to do fashion design my whole life. That was besides tennis, that was what I thought that's what I wanted to do.
So you didn't want to be Serena Williams?
No.
Okay.
I love tennis, but it wasn't I don't know. I wasn't in as love with it as others, fashion. I guess. Yeah. I would still do it. And I was like, this is how I'm going to pay for college. But
do you still play?
A little bit here and there. Yeah. It's hard to find players that my roommate likes to try to play, and she's love her. She's not good at it. Yeah. Chris and I hit sometimes, and he's pretty athletic, so he can pick it up. But it's just hard on that level to play with somebody. It ends up being me feeding balls a lot and chasing,
Yeah.
So, no, I don't play as much as I'd like to, but I took kind of a break after high school for a few years, and it was so much that I'm like, I'm tired of doing this. Yeah. But I had gotten a scholarship, full ride to go to SCAD, and it's kind of difficult finding tennis and the fashion in colleges. It's just fashion design is a technical school thing. Yeah. The art institutes, all those things, you're just not going to find sports. So SCAD was one of the very few schools that had a D2 tennis team and a very good program for fashion design. So that's my senior year. I was like, that's where I'm going. And I talked to the coach, and they're like, full ride. I just need to come see you hit. And I was like, cool. We scheduled it end of October, I think it was. And so the day came, and he didn't show up. And my coaches are like, where's this guy at? I'm like, I don't know. We emailed back and forth he's supposed to be here today. So I told them, I'll email him again and, see if there was some sort of misunderstanding or what. Sent him an email. No response. Sent him another email 2 weeks later, a week later, nothing. About 3 weeks later, the sports program director sends me an email. I was like, hey, Tiffany, I'm so sorry to inform you, the coach has been fired. We're currently in search of a new coach, I think is how they properly worded it. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I had met some of the girls on the team, and I'm like, what happened? What's going on? And he got fired. He had just got hired, and then in July, and then he was fired. And so I think he was stealing money from the school or something of that nature happened to where he was gone. But without a coach, they can't.
Unfortunate for you.
Yeah. So without a coach, they can't nobody else can give the scholarships. So they're like, we got to just put you kind of in limbo. So I'm like, oh, I have to figure out. I mean, this is October. People are making decisions on colleges. Yeah. So I started reaching out to other places, which I was dead set on SCAD from the start. So I really hadn't talked to anybody else. So I'm like, oh God, I got to figure this out.
Yeah.
So I talked to a school out in California. Their coach left mid-season. In the midst of us talking, I'm like, do I have bad luck? What's happening? So all through that, about February, I guess it was, of my senior year, SCAD got a new coach. But they're like, we don't have any more scholarship money because we weren't sure if we were going to get a coach. So
we gave it away.
We allocated it to the other sports. And so there's no scholarship this year. And so I ended up talking to their coach, really great guy. One of my coaches actually grew up with him, playing juniors, so they knew each other and all was well. But I'm like, I just didn't know. Like, I'm like, can I commit to a full year of paying full price there? I was in this like, do I love tennis? Do I not? You know, it's a lot for being down there. It's 6 days a week, like 4 hours a day, if not more. For 4 years, I was doing that. So I'm a little burnt out. I can't imagine 4 more years of college work, plus tennis, plus tournaments, blah, 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 blah. So I just wasn't sure. And I'm like, well, maybe I can start in January. And that way it's only half the tuition, half the year. And I'll have a little more time to make a decision. And so we talked through that. And I just was like, I don't think that's what nothing was guaranteed on the back end of the next 3 years. So I'm like, it's a very expensive school. And my parents had put a lot of money into my high school. So I'm like, they're not paying for it anymore. I'm not taking out that much in loans for that and not knowing if that's what I want to do or not. So I took a year off, ended up going to the Art Institute in Chicago.
Nice.
The next year. And I love Chicago, but the school was not what I thought it was going to be. It was more...
Did you spend all 4 years there?
No, I spent like a semester there.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it was like a 3rd grade art program.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was bad. It wasn't that good.
The Art Institute of Chicago.
Okay, so there's 2, which it's very confusing, but it's called the Art Institute of Chicago, but it's an AI. Okay. So they have AIs all over the country. My mom went to the AI in Fort Lauderdale and loved it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't know, that program, I don't know if it was just the fashion design or not, but it was like, our final was like, what does horizontal mean? And, you know, yeah, it was bad. Yeah. So, like, I'm not paying all this money to do this either. And I wasn't loving it. So I had a lot of friends that went to Clemson from Hilton Head. And so everybody was talking about how much they love Clemson and blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll just go to Clemson. Like, sure.
Yeah, they have a tennis program.
No, their tennis program is like top tier. So I'm like, I can't play tennis there. But I'll just transfer. And growing up, I didn't do a lot of like research on this. And I just heard, it's easier to transfer into a school than it is to like start as a freshman. So I'm like, okay, my Art Institute credits are going to just transfer right into Clemson. No, they're like, you need 30 credit hours that you don't have, and these don't really count because they're fashion program stuff. So
does Clemson have a fashion
program? No. I was like applying to their architecture program because I did like math and that kind of design. Yeah. Didn't realize their architecture program was like top 20.
Engineering.
Yeah. It's very well accredited. So I didn't know that. Very small acceptance rate into that anyhow. So they're like, no. So I went to Tri-County for a year, and I didn't like anything I was doing. I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. I don't even know why I want to go to Clemson, like just because my friends are here. Yeah. There's no fashion program here. I'm just here because I have friends here. So I had the second semester of that, I had started working in Greenville at like a clothing boutique, and I was driving back and forth all the time. And I'm like, this is silly. Like, I'm driving 40 minutes to come back here and live in Clemson, which if you don't go to Clemson, Clemson's not a super exciting town to live in. So I'm like, I'm going to move to Greenville. And I'm like, I'm just going to take a break with the school stuff. I don't know what I want to do there. And I'll just start working and I'll figure it out. So I started working and serving and bartending at various restaurants downtown. And then I worked for Dr. Jolson at Upstate Spine for about 2 years. And they really kind of took me under their wing. And I just started off doing all their front desk work. And he's like, wow, they're introducing some new things. And this was like a up and coming stretch therapy. Fascial stretch therapy is what it's called. But he's like, you could get certified and licensed to do this. And it's not a long program. And, we could bring it on because they're more sports medicine a little bit too. So he's like, yeah, with your tennis background and golf and all that, I think it'd be a really great fit. So I ended up going to a class out in Arizona and got certified to do that. And so I did that for about 1.5 years before I moved.
So that brings us up to about 21.
That brings us to end of 19.
But you're about 21 years old.
20. No,
After-
I'm trying to think. How old was I? I was 22.
Okay.
Almost 23.
So I always wonder, straight from high school to a 4-year college, there's some life that's figured out there.
Yeah.
But probably not nearly as much as you had to figure out.
Well,
right? Because like you moved around. There's just so much extra knowledge learned.
Yeah. Well, and like growing up, going to the tennis academy, I was in housing, like their boarding school, basically. So I had not lived with my parents since I was 13. So the growing up that a lot of kids do from college, through their college years, I did through high school.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I was a little bit more matured, I guess you could say, or independent. So that never really bothered me. But yeah, figuring out what I wanted to do was like, and I like doing so much. That's why I have four jobs now. They're all over the place. But I just didn't know. And I'm like, I'm not going to sink a bunch of money into school just to maybe figure it out and have debt and not know if I love doing what I got my degree in.
Yeah.
Because there was definitely that option. I could have gone to Clemson and done that and done some sort of program. I mean, I was looking at anything I could get into. I'm like, what?
Underwater basket weaving.
Yeah, whatever. I'm like, I don't love doing that. So why would I get a degree in that? And both my parents are it was never like, you must go to college and you need to have a degree. So that was nice. I mean,
figure out what you want to do.
Yeah. They're very supportive with that. So that's kind of where that took me through all these different little life paths, and they were supportive through almost all of it.
So what did you end up getting your degree in?
I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I never. I mean, from that, Tri-County was the last time I really went to like college.
Yeah.
So I got the fascial stretch therapy license when I was there, and then moved back to North Carolina. And that was kind of when COVID started, or very close to. And I had just started taking my real estate license classes, didn't have my license yet. And so my mom's an interior designer. I love design, but I just was like, no, I don't want to take over my mom. I don't want to work for my mom. I don't want to take over her business. I definitely thought I did not want to be an interior designer. Most of my life, I was like, no, you got your thing and I want to do fashion. I love clothes, whatever. And so she needed help. She was busy when everything was shutting down. So she's like, well, why don't you just stay up here until all this resolves and, you work for me.
That's interesting. So everybody that was at home was remodeling their house.
Yeah. Well, and they're bored, and they're like, it's time to redecorate.
They're bringing decorators in.
Yeah.
Like, do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So she was busy. And it's like I said, it's a very small town. So she has one girl that works for her, and she does like a lot of the accounting and the back end of things. But she's like, I need help on these design projects. Like, I need somebody to go measure. I need somebody to go talk to clients. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. So I was like her assistant, basically, and still am. I do a lot of work with her still. But she's up there, and so I'll go back and forth. We were just down in Florida last week meeting with some clients. So I've really learned to love it, which I never thought I was going to. So it's been fun, and my mom and I get along great. So we have a good time all the time working.
So you got your real estate license.
Yeah.
You sell real estate.
Yes.
You do interior design. You work at Society.
Yeah.
When do you sleep?
I as much as it sounds like it's a lot, I do sleep a good bit.
And a lot of that, I'm sure a lot of it can be managed, from a phone, a laptop.
Like the real estate thing. So I'm licensed in North Carolina. So I work for the Damien Hall Group here in Greenville. Damien is licensed in North Carolina and South Carolina. So it's a boutique team. We kind of specialize in luxury homes. So they're primarily here in the upstate. Tryon, North Carolina is another area that we really focus on. And so being from Cashers, when I met with them, they're like, we have clients in that area. We just aren't up there a lot and aren't super familiar with it. So that being my background, they're like, it's a huge asset for us. So that's when they brought me on to work with them. And that was last February.
And are you traveling?
Yeah. So I go back and forth. Yeah. Not a ton. I mean, real estate's all who you know, your clientele. It's a building block. So being up there, not
well, being
physically being up there,
being in luxury,
yeah,
you're not selling 6 houses a week.
no, and it's not it's funny, but like I have friends that are in real estate as well. That's a different clientele, I guess, you know, and they're doing houses once a week, once a month, whatever. And they're like, so Tiffany, what have you sold? I'm like, it's been a couple months, but I mean, it was a really nice house.
You're selling $1 million plus houses.
Yeah. So we're getting there. I've got some clients now that I'm working with. And so it's a building block. I'm not in any rush to like be on Selling Sunsets tomorrow, but you know, hey, if they call, we have a very fun team that they could, it'd be an adventurous thing for them. But no, I've really liked it. And it's been a good combination, having the interior design kind of knowledge to work with some clients, because
do you ever double sell? Where you sell them a house and then you go and design it?
One of our clients that bought up there, I've introduced to my mom, and they've gotten a couple things from them. So yeah, I mean, it's not always a, you know, like here's a full package, but it does help to have the knowledge. And even just when they're like, oh, we would do this and this and this and remodel this, I'm like, well, this, you know, maybe this would work better, or you could pick these paint colors or whatever. It's just, I'm able to suggest things that maybe somebody that doesn't have that background couldn't. So it definitely plays to my favor, I think, having both.
And when doing interior design, my mind, you know, naively goes to decorating.
Yeah.
Just like picking out pillows, picking out furniture. Yeah. But also, I mean, sometimes aren't you like making curtains?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like especially, so my mom's been in business up in Cashers for 31 years. And the clientele in Cashers, it's all very, very luxurious homes. Yeah. So yeah, pretty much, I don't want to say everything is custom, but like your upholstery is usually all custom. So picking out like the shape of the arm of the chair, the foot style, the weave. I mean, everything is pretty custom. So yeah, draperies. I mean, we're out there measuring what kind of pinch pleat you want. You want, you know, tape, decorative tape on the sides, all that stuff. I mean, we go in houses and, you know, have to measure every single corner if they don't have their like architectural plans. So playing with different layouts, you've got to know your math, how much space is in between a table and a couch that you should have.
How to put them on a rug.
Yeah.
All the stuff.
Things that like technical things that, you know, when you're just looking at it, you wouldn't think twice about. But from a designer's perspective, you have to know those things. Otherwise, it's like, oh, your chair is hitting the wall. Why? Oh, because it's that close to the wall. Just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So how did you meet Jeremy, and how did you end up at Society?
So when I first moved to Greenville, I worked at Willie Taco for a couple years. Okay. And I went out downtown. I mean, I was like freshly 21. So I was like, yes, party time. And so I met Miguel and Jeremy and Colin at Ray's, and you know,
those guys
who doesn't
all
know?
The restaurants downtown,
right. Who doesn't know them?
All the bars.
So I was good friends with them, and I did some modeling stuff for Jeremy's White Rabbit shirts pretty early on, and some of like Ray's t-shirts for a few years. So I just knew him through that, and they'd come into Willie Taco all the time. And so we just had mutual friends, and I became friends with them. And so I probably have known Jeremy for three or 4 years now. But he's had the concept with Society for maybe not exactly Society, but he's always had that vision of having something like a restaurant and bar. So I remember 3 years ago when we were in Atlanta we were working at a music festival, and he was talking about it, and I was like, that's awesome. You know, he had like some concept stuff, and I'm like, so when are you gonna open? He's like, I don't know yet. So when he finally was doing it, I'm like, well, I want to work there. Like, I need, with real estate's commission, interior design, a somewhat commission. I mean, my mom would pay me checks every week, but it's mostly commission. So I'm like, I need bartending is somewhat sustainable.
For sure.
Especially at a brand new, very popular bar. So I didn't really want to bartend, but I'm like, I would work for them. Like, I love these guys. We've been friends for years. I know they'll work with my schedule. So I went in there before they opened and said, hey, like, I want to work here. This is what I can do. This is how many days I can do. Does that work for you guys or not? If not, all good. And they're like, yeah, would love to have you. So I started bartending there when they opened.
So what was that transition like with Society as, they opened? Because you were there from the beginning, right?
Yeah. So I was there from May 4th when we opened last year.
Anniversary's coming up.
Yeah, it is. It's a
Block
big
party.
week. Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's a anniversary, Cinco de Mayo, Artisphere, all in 1 week. It's going to be wild.
Tabby's launch.
Yes. Oh, really?
Yeah.
What day?
March, that week.
May.
Yeah. Or May, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay. We're all busy. We're all tired.
It's exciting.
Yeah, that's really exciting.
So we've talked about it a lot on this podcast
Yeah.
of how cool of a thing that they're doing there. But what's your perspective of kind of start, how the integral pieces that made them successful from the start?
Yeah. I mean, knowing them like for so long, it's just for me been a really cool thing to see how big it's become. I mean, I'm not going to like claim it's the most popular bar downtown, but if you look at the lines and whatever, I mean, we have it packed out every last Tuesday of the month for Tiki Tuesday. I mean, you don't see other bars that are just.
It's very unique.
Yeah, it's very unique.
And
for the space, and how small it is, for how much volume we can do in there, and from a bartender's perspective, I mean, it's wild. I mean, and people are like, oh, because I usually work through the weekdays, and like, you just work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and you pay your bills and things. I'm like, yeah, like we're busy, every day of the week.
Well, you're busy, and the service is great.
Yeah, and
the food is great.
Yeah, and it's consistent.
Good tips.
Yeah, it does. And we have a huge service industry crowd that comes in there.
Yeah.
That's consistent, which is always nice. But everybody that comes in there loves it. They love the atmosphere. They love the cocktails. They like, everybody's very friendly in there. So we've got a really unique crowd. It's the only service industry job that I've ever worked that really has had very, very little turnover in the sense of losing employees or anything. I mean, from the start, we've lost a few here and there that, have either moved or whatever, but we really have not brought on or lost that many people, which is cool because everybody's very tightly knit because of that.
The average turnover in the restaurant industry as a whole is 275%.
Yeah.
Average.
Oh, yeah.
So that means that, people turn their staff over almost 3 times in a year.
Yeah.
And you guys have lost maybe 1 or 2.
I mean,
in a year,
we've
whatever
lost,
it is. So, I mean, very well done on those guys' part.
Oh yeah, it's a fun place to work, and I enjoy it. I would love to go to bed a little earlier some nights, but
if you're working, it's 4 in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, we close at 2, and it depends. I mean, like if I work on Monday, we're out of there by 2:30. Now Friday nights, it's closer to 3:30.
So a fun question I always ask bartenders.
Yeah.
Tell me the most like interesting story that you've seen of somebody on like a first date, awkward like Tinder meetup.
Oh god.
Like, because you see all that stuff.
We see it all, yeah. I mean,
it's loud in there, so maybe you don't hear as much.
I like to play the game more of like when you can tell they're on a first date, like what do you think they're talking about? And like, should we send a drink over and like say, that somebody ordered it for them, or I don't know, just kind of play around with them, just loosen them up. Because sometimes you see them, they're just so like, you can tell it's a first date and you're like, okay, let's have a little fun with it. So I don't know if I really have an awkward.
Have you ever had to deal with anything sketchy where you're like, I'm concerned for this person, I need to help them? Not while working. I like me if I'm out, I'm very like, I'll jump right into, if there's some sort of like, it happened downtown Greenville one time, and it was like 2 a.m. I probably shouldn't have been interjecting in these people's lives, but there was a couple that was kind of arguing, and he was getting a little grabby. So I bolted across the street, and I'm like, hey guys, and came in. I'm like, you're coming with me, girlfriend. And she's like, oh, thank you. I'm like, what? This dude is like 6 times my height. Like he could have just knocked me out, but that didn't happen. But I didn't have any backup if it did. So I shouldn't do that, but I will if I need to. So, and thankfully it's never happened while I was working, but I'm also back behind the bar, so I don't really hear some of the conversations.
there's some big guys in society too.
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah.
They'll handle business.
Yeah, yeah. I just call if there's a problem, the bouncer just comes right in and it's problem solved.
So your fourth business.
Yes.
And probably to me the most unique.
Yeah.
I think you're the first person I know of that did it. I'm sure there's others that have done it.
Yeah.
But the social picnic.
Yeah.
So where did you get that? I mean, where did that start?
So I do a lot of research on Instagram. I love parties. I love themed parties. Like every year for my birthday, I always do a theme. That's for the last few years I've done that. So 2 years ago, I had seen something like a tea party type setup on Instagram, and this business out in California called the Picnic Collective does all these very low tabled, really beachy, like beautiful setups. And I'm like, that would be fun with like a tea party theme. And it was a tequila party. So It was, there was tequila in the teapot. Had to make it a little fun there. But I'm like, I want to do that for my birthday. So I have a friend that does woodworking, and he had this huge pallet that he's like, I can just put legs on it and you can use it as a table. Like, cool. That's, that works. I didn't have a low top picnic table just sitting around. Yeah. So he made that for me, and I set it up in the Rock Quarry Garden downtown. And so I had all these antique teacups that my grandmother had given me, and just made it a whole big theme of it's a tea party. So all my friends came in dresses, and we did that in the park, and we made little sandwiches, and I made all this food and brought it down there. And we're like, me and my mom are hauling this big ass table down into the park and set it all up. So it turned out really cute. And so we had a great time. And I had friends later on that after seeing some of the pictures from the party were like, do you do this for other people? And I was like, I could, and why not? I have the table and I have some of the stuff. And with my mom being in interior design, we have wholesalers that we can get, these poofs and cups and plates.
You have extra decorations later on.
Access to these things. And my mom and I just beyond that, love collecting like antique glassware and plates and things. So we had found a bunch of like depression glass, like pastel pink plates and greens and things that we've had over the years that just sit pretty in a cabinet. We're like, what are we going to do with this stuff? Like it's just sitting here.
My mom
and we
has
love
a
it.
cabinet full of it.
Yeah. Like you love it. It's pretty to look at, but like we need to use it. So that's kind of where it started. I'm like, okay, I have all this stuff and I could do this. And I like doing it. And I love parties and I love themes. And so I'm like, this is great. So a good friend of mine who I actually work a lot with now who does photography, her name's Emily Ray. She does a lot of portrait, weddings, couples, things like that. But she was doing a birthday party and she was like, can you do the picnic? And so she was really my first like customer with doing it. And she's like, I love the one you did for your birthday. I want to do this theme. And it was different. It was like very natural, green, kind of earthy tones for a birthday. And so I was like, yeah. So I set the whole thing up and got a lot of attention she reposted it and she had posted pictures from it. And so friends of hers were messaging me. And so it just kind of took off. And I was like, I think I could really make a business out of this. Yeah. So I created a website. I created an Instagram. I go to like Home Goods or wherever, and I'm like, oh, this is for the picnics. I need this, know. So I love shopping for
write-off.
It's a write-off, yeah. I still don't know how that works, but it's a write-off. So I've just collected more and more, and I went to market with my mom back in July, I guess, of last year.
Furniture market,
yeah, in
High
Atlanta.
Point.
So there is High Point, yes. Atlanta's a little more, it happens more frequently.
Okay.
But they have like a whole section of like party stuff that she never goes to those floors. But she's like, we could go check them out if you want to see if there's some things you'd like to order. Yeah. So there's some higher end brands that have like more, I don't say like, luxurious like paper plates and things for kids parties. So I did a race car themed birthday party for a little boy. Nice. And it works great for kids because the table's already low. So I've got the pillows and the poofs.
They're already rolling around on the ground.
Yeah, exactly. So it's their height. So I never thought I was going to do kids parties, but the kids parties are my favorite. Like, because you can get real funky and cute with those. So
what's the largest, amount of people?
So I think the biggest one I've done is like 17 people.
That's pretty that's large.
I'm working on building some tables because I've had inquiries about doing a 30-person party and a 20, and I just don't have those sitting around. So
what does this process look like? So however you get the customer to want you to do it.
Yeah.
You go through the theme. I mean, do you have a truck and a trailer that you just haul out there and all this
pretty
stuff?
Much. Or? Depending on the size of the party. So if it's a smaller party, like a date night or a double date or like a 4 to 6 person party, I have a table that I can actually fit in my car. So I'll just pack my car with all my stuff and set it up. And it's usually, I go to Hollingsworth Park a lot, but I'll come to people's backyards and things if that's where they want it set up. Wow. I've kind of shied away from Falls Park because it's impossible to find a parking spot, and bringing tables down the stairs is difficult. So
yeah, I don't imagine anywhere that's
and it's really not too private if you're there. So I just kind of shy away from it. But Hollingsworth's great.
I feel like you'd have to have a license or something too.
Yeah, well, I always get I did it once, and actually for my birthday is when I set up there. And you're not really supposed to have like glass in the park and alcohol in the park. And I'm like, nobody's coming down here and checking this, right? But it was we were in the rock quarry, and like we were finishing up, thankfully, but this guy comes in a full tuxedo, and he's like, ma'am, are you guys about done? And we're like, yeah, we're like leisurely packing up. Like we'd had a couple of teas, so we're like, like whatever.
Yeah, we'll be out of here soon.
And he's like, okay, great. My daughter's got this whole park reserved for her wedding in like 30 minutes. And we're like, okay. So we're then running to the car. But transportation for a larger party, yes. My mom has a furniture van, or like a moving van.
Got it.
So that's come in handy a number of times for the bigger tables and more seating and things like that. So I use that periodically.
Such a cool idea. I mean, date night, engagements.
Yeah. I did one. I drove down to Charleston for an engagement setup, which it's so fun to see it. Like, I set the whole thing up, and he had it on. I have a little sign. You can like put a chalk sign. So he had their names and the date on the one side, and then he had turned it around, and it had like, "Will you marry me?" on the other side. And
nice.
So it was really cute. She had a secret photographer out there, and it's fun, and everyone's different, like I have themes and different setups that I can just show you a picture of and say, I've done this before, we could do this again. But I really sit there and talk with the clients of like, okay, what is this for? What's the occasion? Date, time, whatever. That's the easy stuff. But what do you want? Like, what colors do you want? Is there a theme? Like, we're doing one in a few weeks that's a Palm Beach theme, which is going to be so much fun.
It's like that's very Palm Beach.
Yeah.
That's a lot of
pink. Or we're doing like sunset.
Almost like Miami.
Yeah. So palm leaves, and I'm excited about it. But
do you do the food too?
So initially I was doing a add-on for a charcuterie board.
Cooking cakes.
Yeah, I was like going everywhere. But I would make, because I like doing that stuff, but I was like, yeah, I'll make the charcuterie board. I'll transport the food. No, that was too much.
Well, when you get to a certain scale, you have to.
Yeah, so
like food safety protocols.
Well, exactly. And that was only for like friends of mine that I was doing that. So past that, I'm like, I need to just find somebody that'll do this for me. So Chris has done some catering for me.
I think you know a catering guy.
Yeah. It helps knowing somebody. But I'll do like crumble cookie. I have an add-on for that. So that's easy for me to just go pick. It's boxed. I try to keep stuff as an add-on that's in a box so it's safe, and I just keep it closed until they get there. And I'll wait. Once I've set up, like I don't just leave it there unless it's for a proposal and I'm like in the bushes nearby. I don't want anybody taking my things. But
if a couple is like, hey, I want to have a date night.
Right.
It's like, hey guys, here's everything.
Well, and if it's a surprise thing, like whoever's coordinating it, I'll let them know this is where it's at. Again, I'm nearby until you're like, let me know when you get there, and then I'll disappear. But I don't stand there and like wait for them to be like, okay, here you go. Here you go.
So have you utilized social media to get most of your following for that?
Yeah, for that, definitely. So I created its own page. It's the Picnic Social.
That's how I found out about it.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm scrolling through. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I know her.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's really cool. That's in Greenville.
I mean, that's definitely, I had like the Holiday Inn Express downtown here like reposted something from it, and they touched base with me, and they're like, yeah, we're just like featuring local, different businesses, and would love to post yours. And I'm like, cool. I have no idea how I mean, I've never done work at the Holiday Inn Express, but that's awesome, So yeah, social media for that has been really great. That's definitely, I mean, I have a website for it, but it's not like where people are, they're not searching the internet for it, I guess.
I didn't know.
I do all of the back end stuff. So that's like a learning curve for me. I'm like, okay, I need to go and like get Google reviews, and it's getting there. But so primarily I use Instagram. And I try to post videos of different setups that I've done, photographs. Thankfully, Emily's been really great. So now I have a lot of professional photos on ones that we've worked together with. And so we'll do like little events. We've done the last 2. We did a Valentine's Day setup. So we booked a studio for the whole day. I came in there and set up a huge Valentine's spread theme. And she took we just had time slots and booked people out that way, and she took the pictures and I did the setup and Chris made some cupcakes and things, and so we did that for Easter. So we try to do little pop-ups here and there because I'd like it to be, the picnic social. It's a social event. It's a social gathering. You
gotta see if you maybe partner with the baseball field.
Yeah.
So they got the outfield area.
Yeah.
A lot of people like to sit out there.
Yeah.
That'd be really fun.
Yeah. But I would like, I mean, I was telling Chris, like, I scroll on Instagram all the time looking at different inspiration photos, and there's different companies, across the United States that do the picnics on different scales and things. And, there's some that have like little cars in the back. I'm like, oh, that's, I'm like, I need to get that. And I'm like, okay, like we got to scale this here for a second. Like we're not doing that. We're not that busy yet. So it's getting there though. It's getting busier and busier. So I'm happy with where it's going.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
Well, Tiffany, thanks for coming on.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
It was great to get to know you a little bit.
Yeah.
And we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.